Hello and welcome to another episode of the How to Create VR tutorial series, where you learn by watching other VR, AR, and MR professionals create the magic. I'm Marcelo Lewin, an immersive content specialist focused on e-learning and training. I'm also the creator and the guy behind howtocreatevr.com. My guest creator today is Mauricio Martinez-Gonzalez, a virtual reality and multimedia developer with over 8 years of experience who works at Tecnologico de Moneterrey, which is located in Mexico. Today, Mauricio will give us a complete overview and introduction to A-Frame, a web framework for building VR experiences. But before we get started, I want to remind you to register at howtocreatevr.com. It's free and registration gives you access to all our live events, tutorials, practice assets, podcast interviews, videos, and more. It's quick and easy. Just visit howtocreatevr.com and click on the Register for Free button. Finally, if you want to attend our live events in virtual reality, join us inside Altspace VR. Just visit howtocreatevr.com/AltspaceVR and subscribe to our channel. All right, Mauricio, welcome to the tutorial series.
Thank you, Marcelo.
Nice to have you here. We met at, I believe it was the XRDC, right?
Yeah, XRDC last year.
Yeah, we had a nice conversation about A-Frame. You showed me some of your A-Frame apps you were working on. Mm-hmm. And today you're going to be giving us a nice overview of what A-Frame is. And in fact, you're going to be building a quick, simple A-Frame app, right?
Yeah, kind of a hello world of
like a Hello VR app.
Yeah, there's something like that.
There you go. Before we do that, real quick, how did you get into VR development?
Well, first I started in AR development with a Flower toolkit with Flash, Paper Vision 3D and Flash. And then, well, there was kind of a challenge that was put to me. That was to create VR experiences for MOOC students, massive online course students, like, for example, Coursera and all those kind of platforms. So the first task that was given to me to create VR content for them was for it to be multi-platform, right? So people without VR goggles would have to be able to see them. So I started developing this kind of interactive environments. I think that's something like 3 or 4 years ago, and that was my introduction to VR. First with Sketchfab, because they were like the pioneers on having VR embedded with the models, and then we migrated to A-Frame for more interaction, right?
And what attracted you to A-Frame? Why did you migrate to that, let's say, versus Unity?
Oh, yeah. Well, we started in Unity, actually. And there was a hackathon that we had here in Tecnologico de Moneterrey. And it was mostly about VR and AR, like mixed reality and all the extended reality experience. And there were a lot of newcomers to the technology. So some of the teams knew about A-Frame. That was my first knowing of this technology when it was, I think, that 0.3. The version 0.3 or 0.4. So when we started to develop in Unity, there were a lot of problems having the export to work on mobile phones, on computers, and also on VR headsets, and both that were popular at the time. So what A-Frame permitted us was to actually create just one development and export for multiple ports, right? So that's what first got a hold of us with A-Frame, and that's why I think that A-Frame is a pretty big solution for, how you say, platform, or it's not platform free, but it's
device agnostic.
Yeah, device agnostic VR.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Very cool. All right, Mauricio, looking forward to this tutorial. I'll let you get started, and if I have any questions, I'll jump right in.
Of course, yeah, let's do it. Okay, so what is A-Frame? A-Frame is a markup language that makes it easy for you to create VR experiences, like something HTML oriented with DOM and all that stuff, and it's device agnostic. So here in the A-Frame.io webpage, you can see some examples like Hello VR, Hello Metaverse, and stuff like that. You can see this on your HTC Vive or your Google Daydream or whatever device you want, and you will see the same thing as you are seeing here. Now that you know what A-Frame is, let's go here to the introduction part of it. So this is how the A-Frame code actually looks like. And some of the greatest parts of it is that if you know HTML, you already know A-Frame, right? So for example, if you want to start creating things on an A-Frame, you'll create it using Glitch, or you can start creating it using a local server. Okay.
Mauricio, quick question for you. So it looks like you have a script in the heading tag there. So you need to include that A-Frame.io script, right, to be able to use A-Frame?
Yes, of course. This script is the one that have all the magic in it, right? So A-frame, maybe it's important to say. I don't know if some of you guys know 3JS. A-frame is like an abstraction that is easier to understand than 3JS, and 3JS is something that a lot of sites use, and it's like a 3D engine for the browser, right? So A-frame is the easier part of 3JS. So if you know 3JS, you can start creating your scene with A-frame and alter the properties of the stuff you're creating here with 3JS, right?
So A-frame is using 3JS underneath itself, basically.
Yes, of course.
So it's like you said, it's an abstraction of it, so it makes it much easier.
Of course, yes.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. If you want to start creating an experience on A-frame, you have to set up your environment. And for that, you can do one of two things. You can use it on Glitch, or you can use it locally on your computer. So if you want to use it on Glitch, you first have to create an account. You can use an account connected with Facebook or with your GitHub account. And whenever you are there, you'll have to create a new project, a web page, and then Glitch will actually create a normal web page with it.
So is Glitch like an IDE on the cloud, basically?
Yeah, it's like an IDM in the cloud, and the good thing about it is that you can actually, like if I invite you, Marcelo, here to this code,
right,
you can edit it. So it's a team-based IDE. It's really powerful.
That's pretty cool, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, right now we're not going to start creating here the A-frame scene, or we can actually copy and paste this first scene. I'll later explain it to you guys, but for now we're just copy and paste it. So we copy it here, we paste it here, and then we show it here. So the scene is live on Glitch. This is a way of doing it online, right? But we can also do it on our own computer. For local testing, I recommend Mongoose.
Is Mongoose basically a web server?
Mongoose actually transform wherever you...
So if you already have a local web server, let's say you're on Windows and you have IIS, do you need to install Mongoose, or you can just work with IIS?
Oh, you can do the IIS. If you have XAMPP, you can work with XAMPP. I mean,
right.
Whatever you want.
So this is only if you don't have a web server to serve up locally.
Yes, that's it.
Perfect.
I'm telling this to you because when I first started, I didn't know how to do it on offline, like on locally.
Right.
Because if you try to just set it up locally without any web server, it won't load up.
Right. It needs a web server to set up via HTTP.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
So when you download it, I'm gonna close this. When you download the Mongoose app, it's a DMG or an EXE, depending on what you're using, you'll have it here. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to create an HTML file, the same one here. I'm going to paste the code and save it to the same part I have here. Okay, so let's see.
And you're using Sublime Text, but people can use whatever HTML editor they have.
Yeah, you can use Atom,
right.
Atom or Dreamweaver or
Visual Studio or Notepad, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna put index.html, right? So here we have our index, and to use Mongoose, you just have to double click it. It will open here, and then you have the scene, right? The nice thing about Mongoose, and I think that for all other web servers also works like that, you can enter this IP address from your phone and you can test it on your phone there. So it's one of the advantages you have.
I think the key is you have to be in the same wireless network or the same network.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to do that. So that's it for setting up the workspace. Next up, we will create our first scene in VR. It's something similar to this, but we are going to make it from scratch. Okay? Now that we're all set up with our local or online server, let's start by creating our first scene, okay? So to create a scene is very similar to creating a normal HTML document. So I recommend you, this is going to be like your Bible, your aframe.io docs. Right now we're on version 0.8, so that's the version we're going to use. There's a master that's 8.2 or something like that. I recommend going to the one that actually, if you enter here, it will pop out the latest one that is supported, right? So first, we're going to copy this hello world that they provide us here, and we're going to see how we can add our own things here in the scene. Okay, so we copy this with copy, and then we just paste it here. Okay, I'm gonna erase everything that's on the scene because that's what we're gonna do later. Okay, so first here we have an HTML normal document where you have the open and close HTML part, the head and the body. In the head, we always have to load the script. I recommend you to always comment it. So just say like master A-frame code. So you don't forget that this is master A-frame code. Why am I telling you to comment this code? Because later on, we might be using more scripts, more components, and it can get a little messy up here in the head where we load scripts, okay? So on the body part of the HTML, we start creating our A-frame scene with the tag a scene, okay? So something that you'll notice is that most of the things created in A-frame are an A dash and then the name of the thing you're going to add, okay? So let's get back to the docs, and we're gonna add a normal cube, okay? So for starters, we're going to see how to add those kind of things. So here in the scene, we have a box, but here in the documentation, we also have some other components, and we're going to look for a primitive, right? Here it is. When we click the box, here's all the documentation for a box. We only want a red box, right? So we're going to start making that, okay? So way of doing that is just typing a dash box, and we have just added the box, okay? So when we show it, it will be there, but it's not in front of us. It should be like down here or something, and it's colorless, so we will not be able to see it right now. Just for you to know that you're actually using A-frame, this thing will always pop out when you're using it correctly, right? If you are not loading it, or if you're not setting up the server correctly, this thing won't pop out. This thing will actually create, oh, here is the cube that we created earlier.
Yeah, we see it here on this end. And that's basically to jump into HMD mode.
Yeah, this makes you jump into HMD mode. If you're on a phone, it will like create a double vision and all this stuff.
Right.
And if you're on the computer without an HMD, you will just go full screen. Right?
I see. Got it. And if you are within HMD, meaning like Steam, you can go inside of your HMD like Vibe or Rift, and you'll be able to see it.
Yes, this will trigger the HMD part of it.
Right. Okay, cool.
Let's start creating some properties for the entity or for the primitive right now. And to create that, we can just add it as if it was another property. I'm going to close this because there's something that I have to tell you about Glitch. You have limited bandwidth, and whenever you make a change or create something new, this thing refreshes. So I don't recommend you to leave it open. Just close it whenever you're going to work again on your code. Okay, so here you can always put a new color. We'll test it with text color, see if it's there. Okay, there it is. Sorry, my computer is not handling 3D very well, whatever. Here's the box, and with hexadecimal color, we can also do something like, I don't know, red, green, blue, right? So here we had, the box is gonna load. So here is the yellow box, okay? So what if you tell me I don't want it right down me, I want it in front of me, so then we will have to modify the properties of the position, right? So here I'm going to leave it red because I think it's more visible like that. So the position, we can do the same for this. Position, it's equal. And for properties of position and rotation, you'll have the X value, the Y value, and the Z value separated by spaces, okay? So right now, by default, we have 0, 0, 0. If we put here 2 on the Z value, then I think that the box will move behind me or in front of me. I don't recall. I think it's behind me. Yeah, here is the box. I don't know why it's not red. Oh, because of this. Okay, so it's behind me, and if I want it in front of me, I just have to put a -2 here. Something that is standard on the VR development. Well, I think it's standard. I don't quite know if it's standard for all yet, but every unit is a meter. Okay, so you have to consider that into your positions and your rotations, right? Well, in the rotations is different, but in position it's a meter, right? So if I wanted 5 meters in front of me, I just have to move it there. Okay, and there it is. right? Okay, so there's this way of placing things here on the actual canvas, and the other way is another way that's a bit more visible. That's with the inspector. Okay, that's the next thing I'm gonna show you. To open the inspector is like the HTML inspector, but here instead of making a Command Shift I or something like that, is in Mac is Control Alt I. Okay, in PC I think that it's Command Alt or Command Shift or something like that, and it will open the inspector. Let me show you what the inspector is now. Okay. So once we're in the inspector, we can see on the leftmost part of our screen the actual DOM that we're working with right now. But there are some things that we haven't added yet. So A-Frame has helped us and added by themselves, right? Because if we don't have this, we won't be able to actually see the box, right? Because we only have the box, we don't have any camera, we don't have any light source, we don't have anything. So A-Frame is really, really good for us, and he's like, okay, I know you're starting with us, so don't freak out. Well, I'm gonna add by myself some lights and some cameras, right? So we have only added this box, right? This is the box that we've added, and this is the properties that I have been modifying, right? So we have all the normal properties here that are the position, rotation, and scale, that are the translation properties. And we also have here some of the other properties that can be later changed. So if, for example, taking in account that the camera is right here, if I want the box to change some other property besides the 5 meters in front of me, if I want to rotate it, I can simply do it here, right? If I want to scale it, I can do it here too, so it will scale only in one side. If I want to scale it proportionally, I think that I have to just paste it all the way in those parts. So I have changed the box here. I can also change the color of the box right here. It's red right now, but I want to, I don't know, put it green or something like that. Not green, but some hex color of green. So I can actually modify a lot of stuff here in the inspector. It's a more visual kind of modifying the DOM. And to have this back here, because right here is not saving, right? It's just modifying something that we can see later how it changed. So if we want this same box instead of this one, we can always click here on the element we're trying to copy or to get on the code. And then here on the rightmost part, you can copy the entity to the clipboard, right? And when we paste it here, we have the new element with all the new properties, right? So we can create, for example, we can clean up some of this because some of the numbers are really big. But there are some limitations, of course, to this, because even we had the color red here, the way we changed the color was a little different, so it changed the material, but the results are going to be the same, right? So right now we're going to have the red box, and we're going to have the new green box recreated in the same place.
So you can go from the code to the inspector, but you cannot go back. Automatically, you have to paste.
Yeah, you have to paste it.
Right.
It won't.
But from the code, you can go and it'll open up everything that's in your code in the inspector.
Yes, of course.
But when you make changes in the inspector, if you make changes to multiple things, you're going to have to, for each object, copy the clipboard and paste it back.
Not for each object, because you can actually have, for example,
for
copy
the whole scene. I see. Yeah. So you can copy the code for the whole scene and it'll got it.
Exactly. I don't recommend copying the whole scene. I recommend more creating kind of groups that you know you're going to
edit. Yeah.
Editing, right? So for example, if like right here, I just noticed that the other box is inside, so that's why it didn't show. So I will go ahead and change the position in the x-axis. So now I can see both boxes, right? But yeah, I mean, if we're going to make this a regular thing, I recommend you using entities. Entities are like the divs of A-Frame, right? So if you create an empty div in HTML, it will have nothing, like it will be just empty space. So it's the same thing here. If I create an A entity, that means it's something. What thing? Whatever I want it to be. If I want it to be, for example, a box, I can add the component for it to be a box. So how can I add a component? How can I tell this entity that it can be a box? Or maybe you'll hate me for making so much boxes. So let's say it's a sphere, something different than a box. Okay. So right here in our Bible of A-frame, we have this. That's a geometry, right? So in an entity, if we want to create an entity with a specific type of geometry, well, we can actually do it. We can create a box, a circle, cone, cylinder, stuff like that. So right now we're going to create a cylinder, right? And the cylinder does have a component, right? So I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to paste it here on the entity part. And what am I telling here the entity? Sorry, I'm doing something that I advise you not to do, that is change the code and leave this thing open. So what are we telling this entity right now? We're telling it that you, entity, like you, div, or whatever you are going to have a geometry that's a primitive, that's a cylinder with a height of 3 meters and a radius of 2 meters. What else can we add in? Well, we can actually put a material, like the box here, and add a color to the material. Color, let's say it's blue, right? So we can show the results here. Okay, so it's a very big cylinder because let's remember it's in meters, right? So it's like a big cylinder, and we can modify it here on the inspector, right? Here's the entity. And if I wanted maybe a little smaller, I can put a smaller radius. And we can also change the position for it to be in front with all the other things I have here. Okay, so whenever I'm happy with the results, I can copy the HTML and I can paste it here with the new results of the properties, right? So here I have my new scene. Okay, so we're creating a very basic VR scene with very basic code, but we can get it quite more interactive with JavaScript and with more components, right? Well, I was also telling you that it was like a div. So yeah, in all the sense of the word, it is like a div. So you can actually use it as a group entity, and you can. I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to down here. Let me just ident it correctly. So right now, this entity is functioning me as a group, right? So I can go here, see in the inspector that this is a parent of all the 3 figures that I created. That way, if, for example, I'm going to copy this and move it here and create a whole environment here with my boxes, my cubes, and whatnot, I can simply copy the... Wait, I think that it's not reflecting. Okay, so I don't know why it's not reflecting here, the copied boxes. Let me see if we copy here and then paste it, it will work. Okay, apparently it does. Okay, so it does. I don't know why it's not there as is, but well, as you can see, the thing that I copied earlier and the other 2 squares, the 2 cylinders and the 2 squares that I copied in the inspector actually got copied here, right? So that's a way we can use an entity as a group to actually create an environment using the inspector. So what else can an entity be? Well, an entity can be whatever component it tells them to be. Okay, so it can be a camera because we haven't added any camera yet. It can be a fog, it can be a model, GLTF model, LoJ model, and a raycaster. Whatever you want, the entity can be. Okay, so it's like, for example, for people that come from Unity, I think it's a game object. I'm not remembering incorrectly. So it's something that like an empty thing with properties that can be added later. I think that will be all for creating this, our first scene here with A-frame. I hope you guys actually learned something useful. We might get to know some other things we can use and how to create something a bit bigger later on some other tutorial. But for now, I think that it's enough for you to actually start playing with A-frame. So Marcelo, it's all yours now.
Mauricio, thank you for participating in this tutorial. I really appreciate it. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, you can always email me at my personal mail. It's meduzo with Z, meduzo.com@gmail.com. My Twitter account is Maurico_MTZ. So it's Mauriko_MTZ.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Mauricio, and to the rest of you, I'm glad you were here with us. Just a quick reminder, if you want to access all of our live events, tutorials, practice assets, podcast interviews, videos, and more, register for free at howtocreatevr.com. It's quick and easy. Finally, if you want to attend our live events in virtual reality, join us inside Altspace VR. Just visit howtocreatevr.com/AltSpaceVR and subscribe to our channel. So until the next episode, I'm Marcelo Lewin. Cheers, everyone.